Just put it there and he'll feel good.
All right, seeing that it's 6 o'clock, 6:01, I will call this city council meeting to order. Up first is the invocation, and tonight we are with Pastor David Butler from the Faith Assembly Christian Church. Thank you so much for the invocation.
Would you pray with me, please? Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gathering here tonight. We thank you for this being a week of blessing, that our city honors a time set aside where we bless the businesses, the commerce, everything about our beautiful city, Lord God, that we call out and bless. And for on Thursday, as we line up on the pier and do the blessing of the fleet. Father, thank you for our civic leaders tonight. May everything we do be pleasing to you is our prayer, and we ask this in Jesus' name. And now the blessing. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May he give you his peace. Amen.
Councilwoman Aber with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everyone. All right, up first is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion or any subs?
I'll make the motion for approval.
I have a motion. Do I hear a second? With a second from Mr. King. Turn on my screen. All right. Up to vote. All right, so moved. All right, up first is going to be the proclamation of National Safe Boating Week. All right, so before, do you want them up here now or after? All right, so if you guys want to come up here, absolutely. I was about to recognize if there was an after thing. All right, so we have FWC, the United States Coast Guard, and that is it. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate both of your y'all's time. All right, the City of Destin Proclamation, National Safe Boating Week. Whereas for over 100 million Americans, boating continues to be a popular recreational activity. From coast to coast and everywhere in between, people take to the waters an enjoyable time together boating, sailing, paddling, and fishing. And whereas on average 650 people die each year in boating-related incidences in the United States, 75% of these are fatal or fatalities caused by drowning. Whereas the vast majority of these incidences are caused by human error or poor judgment and not by the boat, equipment, or environmental factors. And whereas National Safe Boating Week is observed to bring attention to the important life-saving tips for recreational boaters so that they can have a safe, more fun experience out on the water throughout the years. And whereas safe boating begins with preparation, the Coast Guard estimates that human error accounts for most boating accidents and that life jackets would prevent nearly 75% of boating fatalities. And whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today had they worn a life jacket. And whereas through basic boating safety procedures, carrying life safety, emergency distress, and communication equipment, wearing life jackets, attending boat safety courses, participating in free boat safety checks, and staying sober when navigating, we can help ensure boaters on America's coastal, inland, and offshore waters stay safe throughout the season. And whereas during National Safe Boating Week, the U.S. Coast Guard and the National Safe Boating Council, along with federal, state, and local safe boating partners, encourage all boaters to explore and enjoy America's beautiful waterways responsibly. Now, therefore, I, Bobby Wagner, as mayor and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby support the goal of the Safe Boating Campaign and proclamation May 18th through the 24th, 2024, as National Safe Boating Week and the start of a year-round effort to promote safe boating. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you guys being here. You guys have anything to say? No. Appreciate that. All right, wait. Well, he'll hold it up. Yeah, then we got to... I also appreciate them, as Councilman Guile alluded to, my average height. Thank you so much. All right, so up first in our order is public comments. I'm going to start with my left, y'all's right. If anyone's here for public comments, please walk your way up here, name, address, push the button to make it red, and you'll have 3 minutes. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Council and Mayor, for having me. Name Don Dallas, 442 Snapper Drive. I said the last meeting, we've been having the problem with the rain and water coming in our yards, down our driveways, filling them up. I want to thank the city. They did come out the last rainstorm. They had the little rain suits on, taking some pictures. I hope they got my driveway because it's, pretty full. And it wasn't as bad as rain as we had before. We're still asking, and I'm sure that engineering's aware of it because they've been kind of working it, trying to fix it. But we need some kind of a sewer system, whatever it is, where Juanita comes in, it T-bones into Snapper Drive, 444 is my neighbor. His yard the other day wasn't swamped like it usually is. It looks like a lake out there. And they were intentionally, or they thought about putting a big drain right there in front of his house. I'd like to see one on the south side of my driveway because I don't care if people's watering their yards or it rains. I mean, my driveway is like the streets here, my driveway's like it, and flattens out and it comes all the way up to my garage. So anyway, I appreciate them coming, and I hope they can, get out there and put a couple of, they got them on Juanita too. And they help a whole bunch. They went ahead and dug out the, on the side of the road there. They dug it out, but really it didn't do too good. So anyway, thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Don, for being here. All right, anyone else on my left? All right, middle left. Yep, yes, ma'am. On deck.
Gary Pavlo, Laguna Point, number 5. And I'm here to try and set the record straight on a few things from the April 15th meeting that we missed. According to my contention, it was because we weren't notified. When I was here and did speak to you in the March meeting when it was originally supposed to come up, we were told that we would be notified with plenty of advance warning to come. It may not have made any difference, but at least we would have been here. I noticed that when many of you were making comments about the presentation from the other side, that you expressed that there was a wonder that there wasn't enough comment from the other side of Dolphin Point. The reason being that we were waiting for notification and we did not receive it to our satisfaction. So otherwise we would have been here. I'm only tonight to clear the record straight. I understand whatever I say cannot change anything that's already been done. If that's the case, that's the case. But the parking places were important to us, were important to our families, and whatever our portion of the Destin public was. So that was to be, we wanted to make sure that you understood that from our standpoint. So from that standpoint, what I've said previously, we fought with Dolphin Point back and forth for the years over the use of those parking places. So this is not something that's new. It's just one of the times that we have new personnel, new people, and new owners that weren't familiar with the situation and able to react to the situation. So we appreciate you giving the time to speak with you and to give the point of view that may not have been heard that night, but was there. And I also wanted to characterize from the standpoint that the person who was making the presentation for Dolphin Point made the comment that Laguna Point directors and whatever and the people were not interested in those parking places. I assure you that is not the case. You should have received an email from our director stating that he did not make any comment like that and that he was for the parking places being maintained as they were. So that all of the people that I know that are there, although I haven't talked with every one of them, you have 4 units being sold right now, and every one of them lists as a major benefit access to those parking places. Because it is, as far as the people that are living there and working there. So I thank you for your time and effort in trying to solve all the problems here in Destin, and I just wanted to make those things known to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Yes, ma'am.
Janice Nicole Moran, 208 Snapper Drive, resident of the Harbor District since my first home I purchased in '99. I'm here today to piggyback on Gary because I'm here with my boyfriend who lives at Point South, which is the other property that is flabbergasted at the decision to remove those parking spots. At 208 Snapper, I have a 150-foot front. For the 2 years now, for your poker run, I have let not one, but 2 different big companies park their trailers on my front. They are entertaining not coming to our event anymore because of the parking issue in Destin. With that said, at the end of Noriega Point, there's a paid parking. Why were these parking spaces never considered? Because the units that we live in, I stay with my boyfriend, I rent my house out, 2 years, been there. And I'm shocked that a different sidewalk is going in exchange for maintenance. Because this means now that my boyfriend, who's a disabled Army veteran, can no longer have home health care that requires a parking spot. All of the 8 units at Point South have 2 bedrooms. Most people in America have 2 cars in their home. That means we get 0 visitors with parking. 0. No daughter from South Florida to visit, no massage therapists to come and give them their wellness treatment. And I don't understand it. I think I heard that it was a little sketchy how we weren't involved, to whatever fault that might be. I understand it could be after the fact, but with this new right-of-way, if anyone wants to take a drive over to Moreno Point Drive and see what happens at the end there, if you take those parking spaces away, there's no place to turn around except the one-way drive into our parking, where we each get 2 spots only. And if our neighbors are coming in, thank gosh we fish with these guys who, by the way, participate in your rodeo. And the value of their home will certainly decrease. For a sidewalk and a fence so our dog doesn't poop on their yard, and medical access. What if their gate falters? At that point, how does that ambulance get in there? So I ask you to reconsider this, if possible, because the 8 owners who just had their homeowner annual meeting, there was no additional parking. We had to go to Target, park extra cars, and they're very disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone from the middle? Oh, yes, sir.
Good evening, James Dexter, 28 Moreno Point Road, Unit H, Point South Townhomes. Dolphin Point has 3 buildings, and our HOA is adjacent to 2 sides of it, which is I think you guys have seen in the plots and everything when it was considered. We do only have one way in and one way out, so if somebody's coming out right now, we back out, and the person gets out, and then they come back in. The gate that was proposed, if it gets there and you have 2 or 3 cars, especially summertime, there's no way we're going to be able to get in and out of there. I don't know if that was considered, but, and then also, if I ever invited anybody to come over to go boating with us for the day, there's no place to park for them. It was overflow parking for us, for both Laguna Point and us. For years and years. I mean, 10 years it said no RV and trailer parking without permit. And then 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, in between there, all of a sudden those signs are gone. It says no overnight parking. So we're like, okay, so when my daughters come in, we parked our car in a public parking as far, as close as we could, but they were giving out tickets on those spots already. So it's like, I should have caught on that something was going on then, but I just figured it was just a normal change. Am I getting close? And on a closing note, I have another neighbor that's in my complex that submitted some comments. I don't know if I can give it to. It's something about the egress issue, emergency services.
Yep, right there. Yep.
Thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. All right, anyone middle right? Back? All right, seeing none, I will close the public comments at this time and move forward with the consent agenda, if I have a motion.
I'll make that motion to approve.
I have a
I'll
mo-
second.
With a second. Seeing no discussion, calling the vote. All right, ayes have it unanimously, so moved. Up next, city manager report, Mr. Luis Zanguze.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening to you and council members. The first report we have for you has to do with the direction that you gave us at the last meeting, where you asked us to work with the Delphin Point community and prepare a hold harmless and maintenance agreement for your discussion and review. The city engineer and the city attorney worked on that, and they're here to present their findings.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I did put on your table the email that I got. I'm not sure if anybody else got an email, but that's the one I got, yeah. I just want to point out in that email, it says that, and it was stated earlier today, that we were promised at March meeting to be notified far in advance on the next meeting. And when it came up again and we were not, we did send butter notices out to everybody that lives within 300 feet. That's why we got so many emails back and people coming to speak. Those butter notices were sent out on February 26th for the April 15th meeting. And then we sent out butter notices for tonight on April 25th for tonight's meeting. And the gentleman that spoke was on both mail lists. So I'm not sure what happened with the mail there, but everything was sent out in accordance with our code. So moving forward, we do have the hold harmless and maintenance agreement as requested. So if you have any questions, it should be pretty standard. This is a standard hold harmless that we use around town for other stuff.
All right, with that, do I have a motion or discussion?
I'll make the motion to approve as written. I didn't take it.
Okay, motion to approve is written. Do I have a second? We're going to die of a lack of a second.
I'll second for discussion.
All right. All right, so seeing that there's discussion, do we have discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, all right. Come on, how long you want me to wait here? All right, Councilman Bagby.
He likes to send me through the barbed wire first and see where people are shooting from. Okay. Maybe I misunderstood what you just said. The first notice was sent out in February for the March meeting. Is that what you said?
No,
'cause
February
it was-
26th was sent out.
In February, the meeting was in March.
February 26th, butter notices were sent out for the April 15th meeting.
Okay. And so then when were the?
So for this
That doesn't even
meeting,
make sense to me. When was the second notice sent out?
April 25th for this meeting.
Okay. All right. And when you say 300 yards from the parking spots?
300 feet from the project, yes.
I'm sorry, 300 feet from the parking spots or from Dolphin Point?
Steve, can you answer that?
It's from Dolphin Point, the
Okay,
property itself.
You could be more than 300 feet from Dolphin Point and still be affected by those parking spots. I'm sorry, Tamara, did I say something bad? Oh, you got it. Good job. So I'm just, the property under discussion was not Dolphin Point. The property under discussion was the parking spots. Oops.
We're not sure, but it has your name on
Oh, has my name on it? Oh, thanks. But you had it. Okay, cool. So I'm just asking, but I assume we have a list of the people and the addresses that we sent it out to, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so we sent it out to both affected properties that have been represented here tonight. We confirm the current owners of those properties, because I know the property appraiser website is usually about a month to 2 months behind real estate transactions. So I'm just asking to make sure that we're.
As far as I know, we do use the property appraisers list. Unfortunately, that's what we have. And it's as far as the 300-foot distancing, it was the entire Dolphin Point property with a 300-foot buffer attached to it. The Point South properties were not included as part of the property used to create the buffer, but they are within the 300-foot buffer for notification.
Okay. I gotta think about it.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing that kind of rubs me wrong about this is we've never been criticized or faulted for having too much public input, too many public hearings. We've not really had an official one that went above and beyond the statutory requirements. You know, obviously there's some people that don't think we should do this. And we've had 2 or 3 and whatever communications we got. I think, and I would like to examine if there are any other possible ways to address the problem as presented by Dolphin Point. The biggest problem was people using those parking spaces to trespass onto their property and commit things that were questionable as to legal or not. Is there some other way to address that main concern? I didn't hear him say they just didn't want law-abiding public parking in those spaces. So, I mean, those spaces are not paid for parking spaces now. I'm not sure if that would improve the situation. It may well. People who were there and didn't pay could get a ticket, you know. So it seems that we are moving forward rather quickly.
All right, Councilwoman Aber?
Thank you, Mayor. I kind of agree with Mr. Destin on that. What if, since it seems like we might have more folks from the opposite side of this that didn't get to come in and put their thoughts in it, if we can't make it public parking, we want to make it to where it's just for those that are part of those 2 units. If we put signs up and did like we do with the city sticker, they get a sticker in the apartment complex that they live in or the buildings, and if you don't have one of these stickers, you can be towed, or you're a guest of one of those apartments, like have like some sort of authorization if we leave the parking so that it's just for those units, not for public, misuse, basically. Is there a way to work it to where that could happen?
I can't think of an instance in the city. There might be one where public parking is used to subsidize the developments. And that's what's happening right now.
Can I make a recommendation?
Yep.
Jump in.
I don't want to cut you off.
No.
I'll let you come back up here as well.
Go ahead, Johnny, I'll defer.
No, I wasn't. This is where my mind was going with it. Maybe it's not ideal, but what if we did make it to where it was, and this was my concern before, was that there's a lot of other people that are affected by this. They spoke and said that they carry people way further than, 300 feet, which, all the people 300 feet of Dolphin Point or from these parking spots were notified. Point South is much closer to these parking spots, or is closer than even Dolphin Point. My recommendation was going to be to make them public to where anybody with a Destin pass who has the Destin parking pass can park there. So if I live in Point South I move my car to that spot for the day or whatever it is, and my guests can come park in my spot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going. Can we make it to where it has to be those folks that live in that building so that there isn't a lot of vagrant misuse of that area? Because that was the initial problem, no?
I mean, I was also pointing out, if we want to keep it, like, it should be brought up to code, and these things are too short and there's not enough space to make them to code, so.
All right, Jim, and then I'll let the.
Well, I want to make
Dalton.
sure Teresa and Johnny are done before I,
I'm done.
okay. So I don't want to make it for 2 developments any more than I want to make it for Dolphin Point. But what is the width of those 9 parking spaces?
I believe they're 9 feet. I believe it's 9 feet.
No, that's the width of the parking spaces. The width of the total 9 spaces is what?
81, 9 by 9.
Okay, so if we go on 20 feet, you could get 4 parallel spots because they're sticking out in the road. They do not meet our code. So I'm not going to vote for something that doesn't meet our code. But if you make them 4 parallel spots and put paid parking there, or put where, just like somebody said, you could park your car. I'm not giving stickers to people who should already have stickers. So, but if you want to put your stickered car in that parallel spot, and you want to put your daughter or your massage therapist or your priest or your whatever in that parking spot, in your assigned parking spot, I don't have a problem with that. And then if somebody's parking there that shouldn't be parking there, ticket them, okay? And that should cut down, it cuts down the parking spots. I would put probably 3, maybe 4 if they fit, but they got to fit to code. And that's the thing. So I would request that we have staff go out there, do some measurements. I'm not sure the parallel spots would even fit into code. I think they're 9 feet deep or 10 feet deep, so that would fit the width. And then you got to figure out how many other ones you can get in there. But does that make sense?
It does make sense. We can definitely look into it. I would say if you think of it from a logistical standpoint, you'd want to be parking coming away from Dolphin Point to pull into parallel spots, so you're forcing everybody to go past the 2 developments and figure out how to do a U-turn, turn around to get back to do the parallel spots.
Well, eventually they're going to have to do a U-turn anyway, because if you have them going this direction, then when they pull out, they got to do a U-turn to go back out. If you have them go down, so the U-turn thing doesn't really, at some point, going in or coming out, they're going to have to do a U-turn. I would rather go do the U-turn and pull in, and then that way I can just pull out when I'm ready to leave, but it doesn't matter. So I'm going to make a substitute motion that we ask staff to go out and evaluate the feasibility of parallel parking where those 9 spots are, as long as they comply completely with code. And that doesn't mean the tires are sitting in the road. That means they completely comply with code. So that's my motion.
All right. I got a second by Councilman King. Councilman Destin?
I was just going to comment for us, and I'm going to support the motion because if the parking spaces are a problem, it at least reduces the number. But as far as them not meeting code, I could go out and show you 50 to 100 that are on the right of way right now that were there before 10 years. None of them meet the code. But like I say, it will reduce the problem if it is a problem. And if we incorporate Johnny's idea about saying you have to have a Destin pass, and that should reduce it down to just people who live in Destin. Those 2 steps would at least be steps in the direction of addressing the problem without completely abandoning the parking.
Okay, Councilwoman Neighbor?
Well, to reiterate what Mr. Destin is saying, you're basically, once you make those paid parking, anyone with a Destin sticker can park there and they don't pay. So you would use those 4 spots for those that live in that area. They would park there and have their guests park in their assigned parking stall at their unit. But seeing the sheriff walking this way, I think he's probably got some ideas that might thwart what we're trying to
Just
do.
when we thought it was safe to go out.
Well, go ahead and you go ahead, take some time now.
So there was a lot of talk at the last meeting about criminal activity down there. And I have no doubt that the data that the lady provided is correct. But as I mentioned last time, just because there's a call to service doesn't mean that it's a crime that's committed. So I went and pulled for the last year from May 5, 23 to May 5, 24. And there's 115 calls to service down there. But when you take away everything that couldn't have anything to do with the parking spaces, such as medical emergencies, welfare checks, things of that nature, you end up with actually 36 calls to service. Out of those 36 calls to service, only 6 were where reports were actually taken. 3 of those were burglaries, 1 was a theft, 1 was a warrant service, and 1 was a found property. So, you know, you had 7 911 calls down there, which didn't equate to anything criminal. You had 1 suspicious person call, 1 suspicious vehicle call. Again, those didn't, you know, that's not to say that something criminal wasn't taking place, but when we got there, it was either had gone, we couldn't prove anything criminal nature of it, or there would have been a report. So, you know, basically, Marina Point falls in zone 25. And in zone 25, over that same time period, 0.4% of the calls to service that we answered was actually in that area, and that's included that 115. So that's not, you know, you're talking about the total calls to service is only 0.4%. I went back and looked over over a 5-year period, over the same months, and our calls to service down there, total calls to service, was only 0.6%. So I'm, you know, I can't say that there's not a crime occurring down there right now this minute, but I can tell you there's a lot of other places in our area that are seeing a significantly more calls to service of a nature of a criminal activity.
0.6 of the calls in all of Destin.
All of Zone 25.
Okay.
Destin makes up Zone 25 and Zone 27 for us. Zone 25 is everything to the west of Airport.
So the harbor?
Yeah, the Harbor District.
That's what my neighbor.
So while you're there, that our suggestion turning this into 4 parallel spots, that's not why you were coming up to thwart that idea.
Right.
You were coming
No,
up
no.
to clarify.
Yeah, I
There
just
is-
wanted to clarify because there's,
It's not a crime-ridden area.
Correct.
We could probably help both units by turning it into 4 parking spaces parallel, and then make it to where it's paid parking or city sticker parking.
yeah, I don't have, the sheriff's office doesn't have any issue with it being parallel parking there.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I call him chief because he's our chief of police, but that's not my main motivation. That wasn't my main motivation for voting for it last time. Because I'm sure people go down there and park and get on liveries that pull up. I'm sure there are kids that go down there and fish, you know, off property that doesn't belong to them or to the place where they're staying. And people don't normally report those kinds of crimes because there's no crime there. By the time you get there, that livery's gone. So, or that kid, you know, we're not going to arrest a kid who's fishing in the harbor, I hope. I follow the Johnny King, you know, sometimes we just need to all be nice to each other. And that's what the solution is. But I do want you, I don't want to try to make everybody happy. I want to do the right thing. But I think the right thing here is better enforcement, okay? So every time we go down to the end of Noriega Point to check out that parking lot, we ought to come back by Marina Point, and if we keep parking spots there, 3 or 4, we ought to check that. And if they don't have a sticker, give them a ticket. Especially, you know, if they outstayed their half-a-day welcome because the livery that they snuck onto, you know, is still out in the water or something. But I think there's a solution here that hopefully we can all agree to. But
All right. And then with that, I was going to bring up the other party, if you guys have anything final.
Elisa Belcher, 30 Merino Point Road, Dolphin Point. First to the sheriff back there, I'll take that as a compliment back to my board for the last 2 years of those low stats. First of all, I don't think you should say, hey, this is a less trafficked or less problem area than this one over here. That's never my goal to be your highest stat. I always want to be your lowest stat. And that includes for my neighbors over here at Point South and Laguna, because we all are neighbors in that cul-de-sac. That's my goal, is to always be the lowest percentage. But that is a compliment to my board, because we have worked vigilantly to really try to help. I try not to call 911 because we have too many more important issues. So, wanted to say that. To our neighbors here, first of all,
Please address the board.
okay, I'm sorry, that are here, one of the comments that was made about the fishing rodeo and boat trailers are not allowed on Holiday Isle. So down on those public parking, that has never been an option. And also, part of the problem with that overnight parking, the reason we went back to the city, I've spent 2 years with every city staff person working on this. I have put in hours with your city staff meeting your standards and trying to do all these things. So I'm a little disappointed to get back here tonight, and just because it's not convenient for them, it's a convenience issue, it's a safety issue for all of the children and adults, people crossing that street when they used to leave SUVs, extra long Denali's. There was one that stayed parked there 3 months. They left it there. That was one of our neighbors. And so what we're trying to do is to make the whole area safe. The other thing is, you know, that we will be back for, it's 50 feet of right-of-way between our two buildings. It is not out in the road. I do want y'all to come and visit and see that. But I have been here for 2 years in Ryan's office every other day, Joe Bodie, Lewis, and then I've got Charlie Clary. We have all been working. Your standards are way up here, and I'm having to jump way up here for parking in our lots with what we're doing with gates and fencing. There are all these rules y'all expect us to follow at Dolphin Point. We have to have so many parking places per tenant, so many handicap spaces. There are all these rules you're requiring of our owners. So for their argument to be they don't have enough parking for their guests and people, personally, I don't think that's a problem for the city. That was a problem for their architect to have figured out when those were built. I'm sorry. And actually, I will let you know as a historian, because I have been there since '78, there was no Point South and there was no Laguna Point. And I have original drawings when I was 14. Those parking places were not put there for those two properties. They were put there when Dolphin Point was built. And they really were part of our property. And I have all of that documented. So I just want to let you know that. But I'm really a little bit disheartened by the fact that I have worked so hard with all your city staff, and we're trying so hard and spending a lot of money to do everything y'all want us to do, and to do all of the water spill areas, all of these things so you don't have problems here. We've never said no. We've said, let us open our checkbook. Let us do it just like the city wants it. Every T crossed and every I dotted. And so I think then for you to penalize us because they've come and said, well, we don't have enough parking on the weekends. Well, you know what? We only have 2 parking places per owner as well, and we deal with it. We never use those public parking places. We find a place, or we limit our renters and our owners. And if it becomes a problem, we're going to 1 car per owner, because a lot of properties do that. But we're setting that. We also, as far as having their handicapped people and their caretakers, we have to provide handicap spaces in our parking lot, which I would love to have those for other people to park, but we provide those, and every parking place we lose in this drawing, we have to garner it back somehow based on your rules. So I feel like in a little bit I'm being punished. I've spent 2 years jumping through hoops and going through every meeting, every one of these preliminary meetings and hearings I have been to. So to start over now because a couple of people have an issue and it's not convenient for them, they've been noticed, both their board presidents. I sent drawings to them. I have shown them there won't be anything in our fence and gating that doesn't pass through this group first. It's going to have to pass through Lewis's desk and everybody on board. Charlie Clary, every time, he is constantly working on drawings, as well as John Townsend, our lead counsel, working. So I think that's where I'm a little frustrated here. I have found the city staff to be outstanding, and then I get here, and y'all, it's almost like you've squashed 2 years' worth of work, And all we're doing is jumping through hoops to please the city of Destin standards. So I find that a little bit unequal there. And the data was all I could get. I'm not a professional investigator. I pulled all of that. So I did the best I could there. So I just think, like I said, we're having to reconfigure, and we just had to pay a civil engineer to reconfigure our parking lot where we're going to put a gate, and it is to provide adequate parking and handicap parking. So I think that's something, those two units, they should work out themselves within their property. It is not up to the city to provide overflow conveyance or for their golf carts. That's the other thing. That's not what we're about. And it is a safety issue for the people. And whether they know it or not, those of us that live there and are documenting with cameras, we see it, and it is a safety issue. And the size of the parking places and cars sticking out is an issue.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, seeing anyone else, I don't have my screen up. Anyone else have a discussion? Yeah, go ahead.
So these parking spots are on Dolphin Point's property, right?
No, they're on the city right of way.
City right away, okay.
No sidebars, please. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote.
Can we
Yep.
hear what it is?
Oh,
My motion was to direct staff to go down and see if parallel parking is an option. I'm not even sure it's an option. See if parallel parking is an option. If so, how many spots on top of where those 9 spots sit currently, and report back to the council.
all right, everyone clear? Calling the vote. All right, ayes have it to do some more due diligence on the parallel. All right, so moved. All right,
Item 4B is a presentation on the city's mobility plan, project listing, as also the phasing of those projects. The city engineer and our consultants are here to make that presentation to you.
All right, there's a long history to this, so let me catch you up on it. February 20th of this year, we brought this item to y'all to talk about the prioritization, the list. We took it through some committees, and the motion at that time was to have the staff take it back through the committees to make sure they're fine with the prioritization as presented, and then have another public workshop. After that motion was made, we took it to the Parks and Rec Committee on March 5th, and that passed as the list was presented with no changes. And then we took it to Public Works, Public Safety on March 12th, and that passed as presented with no changes. Then we took it to the local planning agency on March 21st. That had a recommended change to remove the CP3 project from the priority list, and that passed 4-0. Then we took it to, or held a public workshop, and we had no additional feedback and only one person show up. So now we're back to you. I will say that the local planning agency's recommendation to remove C3 or CP3, not really a fan of that. This is a planned list up till 2050, and obviously the city is going to be changing, evolving, developing, growing, hopefully between now and 2050. So we don't really know what all the needs are actually going to need to be around 2050. So why not leave it in the list? This prioritization was on the final phase between 2042 and 2050. So it doesn't hurt anything to have it in there. So just have it in there. And it doesn't have to be built. We will be revisiting the list periodically throughout the years to reprioritize based on what's happening in the city and what the current needs are. So why not have as much in the list as possible to keep our options open? So that's kind of my opinion based on LPA's recommendation. And from there, we have 3TP here to answer any technical questions about the list, how it's put together. Any questions you might have on specific projects, we can talk about those too.
All right. Alan, do you have anything to add at the beginning? I do not. All right, good deal. All right. I'm assuming this might get a little in the weeds, so I'm hoping to take this very methodically because I would love to get something passed tonight, even if we're going to be changing, moving, and calling things different by the end of it. Ideally, I would love to talk projects that you guys have opinions on, that you guys have heard to your constituents about, if there's anything individually. Once we get that sorted out, I'm assuming at that point, it'd be the next logical step to then, with any subs or changes or denials of these projects, then visit the priority list. And hopefully at that point, we're not just gonna be bouncing off the wall and forget where we're at. So that's at least where I'm thinking this goes. But again, y'all, I just get to hit the button. So with that, Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I'm getting confused with the English language lately in my old age, but the motion was clearly to set a public workshop. It passed 6-0. Neither of those options are in this recommendation tonight, and I'm confused. Were you guys confused about what the motion was?
What options? I didn't get what you said.
I said the motion is quite clear, and it was to set a public workshop to let the public examine the priorities. And that was a workshop with the council, I believe.
We did set up a public workshop. It was held on March 26th, and only one council member showed up, and that was the only person to show up.
I understand. However, the motion is quite clear in plain English. What part didn't you understand about that?
I'm lost right now.
Me too. What?
You haven't? I said the motion was to set up a public workshop to discuss the priorities. And that is not one of the options that is before us tonight. Instead, we have an option that the staff wants to work with a consultant to come up with the priorities. You know, the intention of the motion was to let the public come and give us their opinion on what the priorities were. And I understand we had a workshop, but I was asking for another one since we didn't get hardly any input and there was only one council person there. My intent was to have a workshop in front of the council, at a council meeting.
This was a workshop held after.
Okay, I'm understanding the difference.
I'm not, so-
I believe that Councilmember Destin is saying not just a workshop, but a city council workshop, meaning here with the city council.
Exactly, with the public that comes and talks to us.
I mean, that can be set up if that's what council wants to do.
I mean,
That was the intent of the motion, and when I read it, it appears to be that's what it says.
Yeah, there was a workshop held, but what you're saying is before the city council.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's exactly what the point of the motion was. And I went to some of the other workshops. The attendance was, the great majority of that were staff members and the consultants. The only people we had there that were actually from the public were, I think I made a count, there weren't that many. So in my mind, we've still not let the public give us any opinion on what they think of the priorities.
I mean, I disagree. I think if we're going to do another workshop with another lack of performance, maybe we should change our approach. What would make this workshop different than the past workshops from this topic and other topics where we get about the same amount of attendees?
And hopefully we will be able to do an outreach program that would work a little better. Anyway, the workshops that I went to that discuss these priorities have been almost made up totally of our staff members and a few folks. But, you know, in my opinion, we've not gotten the public's input on these priorities at all yet. And I would like to think we should, since this is, as our engineer says, this is a plan that goes forward for a lot of years and entails how many millions of dollars should we be to build out?
150.
150 million? Okay, so we start the planning for that 150 million with very little, if any, public input. Not a good way to work.
I mean, I would say that, correct me if I'm wrong, this plan is, of course, us gathering all the data. It doesn't hold us accountable for any actions. It's not linking us into anything. And the fee adoption is where we could then adopt how much of that fee we're going to be presenting. I would love that whatever final number we come up with, 150 is a lot, whatever number we settle on for these projects, just like the state, I mean, a matching grant of 50/50, that puts whatever our final number is in half, because now you're looking for not just the fees that we're going to generate from this, but also we would have to go and get grants if it's a worthwhile project. I mean, I see what you're saying. I've done this online. I've gotten a lot of feedback. I can tell you what's going to make people upset as far as the NCs, the new roads. And I can tell you that people want bigger, wider bike paths. I mean, I don't really see a workshop, only for the sake that I was doing research my own, and we're here almost to the date a year ago when this was presented in draft 1 form. Now we're here 2 years later with 5, 6 different changes, which were great, add-ons. I'm just afraid we're kicking down a can for what end if it's not going to create any new information on the table. I just don't see a workshop bolstering any more productive conversations.
With all due respect, you're laboring under the assumption that the public will not and cares not to participate in this process. I think that's a poor assumption to make.
It's not an assumption if it's a year of results, is where I'm coming from, is years of workshop now where it's this topic or others. I don't see results changing, and that's almost kind of falling into the insanity, trying to do something over and over, expecting different results. So I don't disagree with more public input. I just am questioning the tack on how we're going to grab that public input.
How would you like to gather that public input, since you don't disagree with it?
I mean, I think I've, at least to make myself feel comfortable on what I brought tonight for my notes, I've done it how I do it, which is online, and have grabbed over 5,000 people's interactions and boiled it down to the common threads. I mean, everyone's got a different approach. Of course, not everyone in there is going to be a Destin resident, but a lot of them were, especially those who had bad things to say about some of these projects, like NC 1 and 2. They were extremely vocal on the west side of town about making their residential neighborhood that seems to be a little bit isolated in their own right now open up to potential through traffic, which me and Ryan debate about. I'm on their side, but I might be a NIMBY in this case. But I've done my research, and I feel comfortable tonight, and I don't think another public workshop with a single attendee is going to change much.
I would just hope that we had more, but one thing is for certain.
Hope's dangerous.
There is no such thing as having too many public workshops, at least not in my mind. And the fact is, since this is a plan that goes out 40 years, waiting another 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I would not think would be astronomically an issue.
Okay. I mean, we can debate all day. I know where we both stand. All right, Councilman Bagby.
So, and of course, I have about 80 questions for the consultant, which 10 or so I conveyed to the staff this afternoon in my pre-brief. But I understand what you're saying, Mayor, and the internet and platforms, they're all great, but the motion was to do a council workshop, not a public workshop, a council workshop where we all check our calendars. We say, yeah, I can be there that day. No, I can't be there. I'm out of town, or I got business, or it was a council workshop. And yeah, maybe we do need to change our messaging. Our message ought to be real simple. We are going to spend $150 million of yours and your kids' money over the next 20 years. You might want to come here and tell us how you want it spent.
Is that
Period.
accurate?
Huh?
I don't think that's accurate. Of our money, this isn't taxpayer money, is it not?
This is
going to be.
This is 150. Well,
This is to
you
set
think you're going
development
to get
fees.
$150 million in grants?
No, I don't
No,
think that.
this is to set development fees, correct?
Yes,
So
yes, this is
new
the
developers
path.
coming in will pay the fee that goes to the pipeline
Exactly,
to build
so-
these projects.
That's exactly right.
And who do you think has developed Destin in the last 10 years? Primarily people that already lived here.
But
Dewey, Keith Howard. I mean, we can go down the list, but those are the people, and guess what? That money comes from people who are going to live here, so they're going to pay it. as their citizens. I don't want to argue about it. I'm just telling you, the motion was to have a council workshop, period. End of statement. We did not have a council workshop. We had a public workshop.
I'll take the fall on that. I had
Okay.
a workshop that council was invited to. That's
Okay.
how I
Yeah.
took it.
Yeah. So we just need to go back and fix, and I get the, man, trust me, I get the kicking the can down the road. Hell, we still don't have the crosstown connector, and when I was in here the first time, we bought that property thinking, oh, we'll have it in 2 years, maybe 4 years at the outside.
14 years later.
Yeah, it's like, and I hate kicking the can, but the council voted unanimously to do something. We have not done that yet. We need to do that, and we may only have 6 council members and 1 member of the public show up, okay? But when we come back that following week, and if I remember the conversation correctly, Mr. Destin said, one of us up here said, well, I don't want this to carry on forever. You know, we need to get this done before the summer where all these people get busy and they have time. You know, they can do it now. And so he said, okay, within the next 6 weeks, I want to have a council workshop. So this was back in whenever it was, February, or I don't even remember now. I'm getting a little more.
When was
anxious.
the workshop?
Yeah, February 20th was the motion. So we were going to do it by the middle of April. You know, have a council workshop so that we could be all done before the summer hit, before everybody said, I'd love to come and tell you how $150 million ought to be spent, but I'm working 15 hours a day right now because this is my 5 months to make money. So I would just ask that we go back, we do and I would say, you know, we're never going to get it done probably before Memorial Day, just putting all our calendars together. I would come early on the second meeting, or I would stay late on the second meeting in May, if that's what it took to get this done, because we get past Memorial Day, and we've lost another 3 months. I'll just be honest with you, because then I know we're only going to get 1 or 2 people here to give us feedback and input. So, you know, I don't want to go through my 80 questions with the consultant right now, because I think I can get a lot of those answered between now and the workshop, but I'll give you a flavor. I want some objective criteria. This 531's good. Tell me what makes up the 5, makes a project a 5, what makes it a 3, objectively. Not, well, the LPA said, you know, they kind of like this first, or I had people put dots on maps, and that project had more dots than this dot. That's one objective criteria, okay? But I want to know, you know, I want to see cost, I want to see safety, I want to see, you know, 10 criteria, objective criteria, where we can say, okay, this is clear, this project rates out at a 4.3, and this project rates out at a 4.47, and this project rates out, and then, okay, that's some input, and then we get to be the subjective criteria makers, okay? But cost ought to be one of those, obviously, from mine. I did go and look, MU8 is within the city limits unless it's going to land or terminate on the school property, which is not.
The school will be coming here momentarily. They voted at their board to annex in.
Okay. And I understand why there are no priority scores for the crosstown connector. I didn't understand as we discussed in the earlier call, the phasing of the crosstown connector, because if you mob and demob 6 times, you could have already done 2 of those segments or 2 of those phases on the crosstown connector, just, you know, doing a mobilization, demobilization, remobilization 4 months later, demobilization, and kind of, we didn't hit what I consider one of our priorities, and that is the Stallman 98 intersection. We've got a grant from the state for $100,000, $200,000?
250.
250, okay? That Representative Maney was gracious enough, and Senator, I just saw him last week.
Senator-
Panama City.
Trumbull.
Trumbull got for us. Yeah, our senator, not Broxton.
Yeah, y'all getting old with your age over
Yeah,
there.
I
your
know,
memory.
Roxon. But the relieving the congestion, when we do the crosstown connector, and I understand your point of view, by this plan, and this is primarily a staff consultant plan, and I don't have a problem with that because we got to start somewhere. But this plan doesn't see the crosstown connector being finished till 2040, 2035. I can't remember what you told me today. Which one?
Well, obviously, we'll finish the last main part soon, but this is a betterment plan of the crosstown connector.
You know? It doesn't, I didn't see any integration of the undergrounding plant, any overlay, I should say, of the undergrounding plant. So what I want to make sure we avoid is that we do this smart, intelligently. I don't want to go in and do this beautiful improvement and then come along and rip it up so that then we can bury the wires underneath the. Okay, that is good. Thank you. I got one. Okay. Well, I got about 60 more to go, but I'll wait until I can sit down with the consultant and Ryan, and they can just walk me through this.
All right.
Just a question for you all, because of your, Johnny, did you have? Just a question. If staff was able to do it on May 20th, our next council date, at the end of this meeting, I was going to call for an executive session at 5:30. So my question for you all is 4 o'clock or 4:30 a reasonable time, do you think, for the public to be able to attend a workshop, maybe between 4 and 5:30, or is that too early? I think it's too early. Okay.
Generally, the meetings were set at the times they are now, so people would be off work.
Because May 13th is another possible option, which would be next Monday, and then it could be a 6 o'clock or a 5:30.
And don't forget, May 13th, 6 PM we've already advertised as budget workshop number 1, so this would just be a second topic on that, for that workshop that we've already advertised for that evening.
That may well, May 13th, though, that's pretty short notice today, is the thing. You know, folks, people who care about it will show up, and maybe they won't. But we need to do the workshop, which is what the motion said. And I'm at a loss, under Robert's rules, how do you make a motion to do what the motion said previously? So, you know, do we need to
You
make
could just make a motion for a specific date. That would be consistent with your prior motion.
Yes, and if staff thinks they can do it on May the 13th, then it's only a week, but I will try to shake the bushes to have people who care about this money being spent in the roads that are going to be built, regardless of whose money it is. So I'll move that the public workshop be added to the budget workshop on May the 13th, and we'll give people an opportunity to come tell us what they think.
All right. Councilman King?
Is there a second?
Do I hear a second? Yep. Second from Councilman King, and up for discussion, King.
Yeah, normally I'm pro not kicking the can as well. I mean, I like the points that were made. I lost where I was going with this. I'm with you. I think it's a lot of money for our future, for, us, our kids, our grandkids, to be forking up to do this without some public input. The main thing I wanted to say was, of late I've seen an influx of social media posts. So hats off to Tamara and her crew. And I think that if we were to, since this workshop was brought up and this was brought up, we've totally revamped our notifications. So I think that we could probably draw a crowd, if we go about it in the right way. But I would like to see I'd like to see a council workshop where we can discuss all this, because I've had people reach out about it that didn't have a chance to chime in. So I'll support that.
Curiosity, is there another date that gives us a little more time to notify the public?
You all could do it on any Monday. We were suggesting dates that council already has meetings for your convenience, really, so you didn't have to come out again, and same with the public. They might already be here for the meeting. But it can be probably any Monday.
May I please have clarification, just because it makes a big difference on what we're sharing? Are these subject to being live streamed? Yes. The budget as well as this, yes. Thank you.
I don't care if they call it.
So the Monday after the 13th?
That's our May 20th meeting, and that's when we have an executive session at
Okay,
5:30. That's why
okay.
I was asking that question about 4:30.
I guess we'll leave it on the 13th and do the best we can if that appears to be the only time we have.
Unless you don't want to, unless you want to do a day of the week that's not a Monday. But then
Sooner the
you have-
better.
It doesn't matter to me, but if the council doesn't want to do that. So the motion as it stands now is May the 13th.
Councilman Destin, you're still up if you want to. You got anything else? Oh, no, as far as discussion. Yeah. Okay, I guess you got yours out of the way. All right, Councilman Gao.
I wanted to say I understand your point of view there, Bobby, I really do. But I totally agree with the fact, and we've run into this in the past, when we have a motion, it's, the whole reason we're up here and we dedicate our time is so that what we decide actually means something. So it's a little disrespectful when somebody disregards what that motion is and follows their own agenda. Additionally, I would like to see somebody here for the NC6, because even though I live in Indian Bayou, if the city's responsible for the roadways and the storm drainage, I realize they don't want to connect NC6 to Indian Trail. In my opinion, if they don't want to, they need to take on responsibility for that entire neighborhood. That HOA needs to take on the fees for that entire neighborhood for all stormwater and roadway. It should not be a city burden if we're not willing to connect that neighborhood to the rest of the city.
No, absolutely. I'm going to yield on most of mine. If we're going to get this done in a week,
Yep.
I'm happy on that. Okay. All right, Councilwoman Aber.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I think the sooner the better, and I think next Monday, the word's already out that we were going to have a public workshop, adding this in there, and those that care, they're going to show up. So let's get this done.
Councilman Bagby.
So Tamara, you're our communications expert. Is that enough time? Because what I don't want to do, I'll be honest with you, I don't want to, there's good, fast, cheap, pick two, one of my favorite sayings. And, we're going to get it good and cheap, but we're going to do it fast, and we may not get the amount of feedback that we want. But I'm sensitive to the kick in the can argument too. So I just want to ask you, is that enough time? How much time do you need?
Well, what we did before was we had news releases, we had stuff out on social media, we did social media ads, and we did radio ads. So I think that if we want to do this on Monday, it's imperative that you all do what Mr. Destin was talking about and reach out individually to the people that you think are have a vested interest in this, because I mean, we've reached capacity in the way we can outreach. I'm certainly open to other ideas you have, but we're doing what all the other cities have done, if not more.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And I will try to call in. I have to go to the Alabama, Florida TPO meeting in Pensacola that afternoon at 2 o'clock, and I have a congressional oversight hearing on insurance that morning in Pensacola. So I will be driving back from Pensacola. I was pretty sure I could make the budget hearing, but I'm pretty sure I won't be here physically to make this hearing, but I will attempt to talk to Ryan and our consultant before then to make them aware of all my concerns.
All right, and then I had a question as far as we're talking, it's a lot of money, 150, but this plan, if I walk it through, we're creating this plan so we can then justify the fee adoption for impact fees, because currently we're subsidizing development with taxpayer dollars. So this isn't necessarily our children and grandchildren paying for this, because right now we have the model set up to where, yes, they are paying for development in Destin. This would allow us for the development to pay their own way forward so that our children don't have to pay for the development of Destin. So that's why I'm just very passionate about this. A week is plenty of time. I'm excited about it, and absolutely. Jim, are you, one more time?
Yeah, I got, just because
Yeah.
that was my last point I was going to make, and I understand y'all's point, and there's no one up here that's been a bigger support of making each of these programs pay for themselves. I can tell you that over the last 20 years. But the point I wanted to make is every single penny we spend up here is the citizens of Destin's penny. And it doesn't matter if a developer paid it, if they paid it, if the state gave it to us or the federal government gave it. Every penny we spend is their money that we could spend on something else. So that's the sell I want to make them. This is your $150 million. I don't care who put it in the bank account. It's your $150 million because all that money is fungible. Okay? And they need, if they don't care how we spend that $150 million, that's fine. They don't have to come, they don't have to call in or whatever, but it is their money.
All right, good point. Calling the vote. All right, ayes have it. Next Monday, everyone online, you know where we'll be. But, all right, 4C.
Yes, it is for the consideration of the contract amendment for the Crosstown Connector. The city engineer?
So we have amendment number 5 in your packet for $110,370.50. And we are proposing to take that from gas tax 2. Here for any questions for Crystal or I.
I move to approve the amendment number 5 using the funding from gas tax 2, number 2.
I'll second that.
All right, motion and a second. Seeing no further discussions, I'm going to call the vote. Awesome. All right, good deal. Ayes have it, so moved. And on that topic, I want to thank Councilwoman Aber for joining me at the TPO for a vote I guess we didn't need, but nonetheless, we were safe for it. Yeah.
For your information, we have for you the quarterly investment report. If you've got any questions, the finance director is available.
All right. Seeing none?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were going to, and I understand, Stephen's here, okay, there he is, that we were going to have the measurement, and I guess you manually put in the measurement, Crystal, to measure against the Florida? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I pull down the reports from Florida Prime each month so that I can calculate the averages that I put into the agenda cover pages, into the tables. Your request at the last council meeting where we had a quarterly investment report was you asked if Raymond James could include the Florida Prime benchmark on their Raymond James report. And Steve Can is here, and you're welcome to call him up to the podium, but I understand it's not possible for Raymond James to do that, but Steve can answer the question more clearly, I think.
Yeah, I guess my question is, I understand it's not in your system and you haven't paid for that report or whatever, but why can't you manually import it in, just like Crystal manually imported it in for this report?
I appreciate the question, and I'd ask the same thing. The answer is, from a regulatory perspective, we also can't create reporting numbers. It has to be something that comes through an approved channel, essentially. So we can't make up stuff, is the answer.
Crystal, did you make this number up?
No, she did not.
No,
I endorse everything that she's putting on there.
Wait,
Yeah.
pull it from Florida
We're not
Prime.
allowed to do it.
Where did you get this number? Did you just pluck it out of thin air?
No, I pull down the monthly summary reports from Florida Prime that they publish each month.
Okay, so,
And it's our agreed upon benchmark that we wrote and referenced in our investment policy.
correct. Okay, so you don't have the ability, or I'm trying to understand what keeps you from doing it, besides?
Both. We don't
Okay.
have a data feed or licensing or whatever mechanism would allow that number to be integrated. And separately, across the board, we're not allowed to create performance reporting essentially out of thin air or using another source that's not part of our approved channels, essentially. So the data is publicly available via Florida Prime, which was one of the reasons it was chosen. Crystal has good data, but we can't integrate that.
It's publicly reported.
Correct.
So you just need to get a license agreement to use that data? I'm just trying to figure out why you physically cannot use publicly available data. It's like the Dow Jones Index. I can tell you what it closed at today. I can tell you what all my stocks closed at, you know. Now, you may not have a license to do that. I'm just trying to figure out why.
We do in fact have a license for the Dow and the S&P and NASDAQ, ironically, yes. It's the regulatory world we're in.
Can we see if we can get a license for Florida Prime's numbers? Or where do we get it?
I get it at prime.sbafla.com, monthly summary reports.
Right, the SBA publishes that, right.
Okay. And y'all can't get an agreement with the SBA?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
We can pursue it.
Can you ask, please?
Of course, we can ask.
Okay,
Of course we
thank you.
can. Yes. Anything else?
Seeing none.
All right,
Thank you for your time. Okay, announcements. Dr. T, I'm assuming?
Yeah, before I give it to her, I just got one update for you all regarding the LDC. All chapters for the new LDC are now available on the city's website. Hearings have started with the LPA. Majority of them have been reviewed. You'll start reviews for them later on this month and then the months to come. I just want to thank my staff for very diligently working on this effort. It's one of a kind as far as we're concerned because we're not only doing the LDC rewrite, we're also updating the comp plan as well as the future land use map. And when we're all done, for the first time in the history of this community, all those three documents will be talking to each other. So I really commend my staff for not only doing the work that they need to do on a daily basis, but equally tackling this very complicated process. So, and I want to also thank you for your patience as we work through this mammoth task. So very appreciative of where we are, and I'm very, very pleased that we're almost at the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership pushing that through and getting it done.
Thank you.
I think it's because HR isn't in his building. We're locking them in their rooms, getting it done. Just kidding.
Tamara, for the rest of the announcements.
Sure. In addition to the budget workshop and what we just talked about on May 13th at 5:30 p.m., we'll also host the SRS Visioning Workshop on May 22nd at 5:30 p.m. here in the annex. We did have our first Kemps Ridley nesting this year as a county, so it's very exciting, and it's a reminder also if you're out in the evenings, whether you are a local or a visitor, to please use the special red flashlights, and we do have those available at City Hall for folks if they'd like to swing by and pick those up. We're working with the Coast Guard 8th District to hold an open house on May 20th from 9 to 11:30 a.m. We'll have media availability before then, and we'll be sending out invitations to them. But the open house is open to, obviously, to everybody, and we would love to have a nice showing for that. And we'll be talking about boating safety and having a lot of demonstrations available. Andy and the IT folks are doing a demonstration tomorrow for the new online permitting and licensing system, and that's at 1 o'clock, and you all should have received an invitation for that. Also, the new voting machines that you all will be using go into effect tomorrow. They appear to be pretty self-explanatory, but Andy and his staff are ready to meet with you individually if you would like a run-through of those, just to get a heads up on it, but it's pretty exciting. Fencing and some new fencing and sea oats were added in front of Turpin, and that was work done through the county, and Alex Fogg spearheaded that, so we're very appreciative of that. Blessing of the Fleet is this Thursday at 3 p.m., and we've received some nice positive feedback and appreciation from the public toward you all, extended to all, for the role that the new Captain Royal Melvin Heritage Park is playing with that this year, and also the fact that you all waived the parking fees for that afternoon at Marlar Parking. So the fees were waived, as you know, as of 2 p.m. that day. Congrats to the mayor on being honored with the 2024 Home Rule Hero Award by the Florida League of Cities. He was recognized for his advocacy efforts over the weekend in Panama City Beach at a Northwest Florida League of Cities meeting, and was also elected as the second VP for the Northwest Florida League of Cities. So thank you for representing us so well. Code Compliance and the Public Information Office worked together to create a flyer that you all should have up there regarding waste management and trash rules for overgrowth and brush. In particular, wanted to put that out quickly to folks since spring cleaning is going on right now. So code compliance officers are working to get those in the hands of as many people as possible.
Can we, I don't know if we're allowed to put them in a mailbox or not.
We are really not allowed to do that.
So like the windshield of the cars in the driveway of the home.
What the code compliance officers, what the code compliance officers are doing is working to meet people, shake hands, share with them, and do it in a very positive way. Yes. That's all I have.
I've used up my one funny comment for the night. Okay, so public hearings. All right. Kim, take it away.
Okay, this is ordinance number 2401 LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, amending section 8.01.00 of the Land Development Code, right-of-way protection, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading. Noel?
Thank you. Good evening, Council and Mayor. We kind of put together a staff report that kind of covers both ordinances, but obviously we had to separate each ordinance out for adoption purposes. But basically, the right-of-way language that's currently in the LDC regards to construction parking, we're literally deleting that section in that ordinance, and because during the LDC rewrite, all that is getting placed into the Code of Ordinances. So the 2401 LC is basically delineation of the construction parking language in that section, which is the 8.01.00A3. So that's the first part, is that ordinance, approving that delineation of that language in the land code.
Correct, and then when we do the reading for the next ordinance, that will be the changes we are adding to the code. So this is the deletion, if you want to open it up to the public.
All right, at this time, seeing that it's a public hearing, if there's anyone here to speak on this topic specifically, this is your time to do so. Seeing an underwhelming enthusiasm for this topic, I will close the public comments and entertain a motion. John, you reading it or?
I move the city council approve ordinance 2401 LC on first reading and direct the city clerk to advertise for second reading.
I have a motion on the table with a second.
I'll second.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, 6, or are we got a full house? No, 5-1. Waiting for 7. All right. Kim, back to you.
Ordinance 2402 CC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, creating Section 1821 of the Code of Ordinances, protection of public right-of-way during permitted construction activity, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the City Code of Ordinances, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This is first reading. Noel?
Thank you, Kim. We of course took this ordinance to both Public Works and LPA. And LPA during that time, we presented 3 options, and they chose to move forward with option 3, which we then brought back to council for their recommendation, which was to move, council's motion was to move forward with option 3 in an ordinance and bring it back to council. So we did take that to LPA on the April 4th, and then, on March the 7th. They had some recommended changes to what we currently provided, such as clarifying or adjusting the title to refer to permitted construction activities, clarifying the 5 foot to be measured from the edge of pavement versus just the right-of-way, or roadway, I think it was, I'm sorry, and clarifying sidewalk closures, and obviously requiring a staging plan. And then we brought that back on April 4th, which they then recommended approval to City Council with one more minor change, which was to add language that the portalets shall be anchored down. So that additional language was added based upon LPA's recommended changes, and now we bring it to council for their recommended motion.
Awesome. All right, seeing that this is a public hearing, at this time, if anyone's here to speak on this topic, this is your time to do so. All right, seeing none, I will close the public comments and entertain a motion.
I'll make it. I move the City Council approve ordinance 24-02-CC on first reading and direct city clerk to advertise for second reading.
I'll second it.
Motion is second and plenty of discussion. Up first, Councilman Stevens, do you have anything to add, or is that, okay? All right, next up, Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, Mr. Destin asked me why I voted against, so I will tell you. If you go to page 3 of 4 on the staging area plan, and I think everybody up here knows, but my experience is, as town manager of Rosemary Beach, watching the construction and managing the construction for over 500 homes on 0 lot lines, what we've done is we have tried to, in place a bureaucracy, in place of what I call the Johnny King rule of we just all need to be good neighbors. So, because I kind of believe in that. And when you if you look at that picture on page 3 of 4, you see a street. So think of Holiday Isle, think out by Marcy's house, there's a street out there. Okay, think of that, the width of that street. So the trucks can only unload on that street. So they are parked in the street. Of course, they're going to follow DOT guidelines. They're going to have somebody, a flagged person at each end to tell us to go, well, this says we're going to follow all applicable guidelines. So we're going to have somebody at the front of that truck, somebody at the back of that truck, and then we're going to have the little person who actually drives the truck driving the little forklift, okay, unloading each one of those pallets of block or shingles or dry wall or whatever, going back and forth into that construction site. So, which works really okay, I guess, if you only have one house on that street under construction at a time. But guess what? When you have 2 deliveries on that one 2-lane street, and whether they're on the same side or the opposite side, now you got 2 trucks, 3 houses, 3 lots apart, unloading, loading, people in the front, people in the back, trying to put people in. Plus, you're blocking off the sidewalk, which now forces people out into the street, which I think is a safety issue. I just think and I understand, I mean, we want to manage things, you know, we want to feel like we're in control, but sometimes you just got to trust people to do the right thing. And I trust them to do the right thing. I don't want to see a bunch of sidewalks closed. I don't want to see, you know, some of these other things. I understand why the staff did what they did. You got direction from City Council. And by God, we're going to do, and you went to all the committees, and I appreciate that. You have done everything we've asked you to do. I just, in my heart of hearts, don't think we should have asked you to go through all this, but it's going to pass anyway. But that's why I voted against it, and that's why I will vote against this one.
Right, Councilman Destin.
I just had a question. What does anchor mean? A tent peg? What-
Secure it down to the ground.
Okay, well, I guess
I mean,
that's-
typically you use like, you would like for, like stakes, almost like you do for a tent. Just, I mean, they're supposed to do it anyway when they deliver. Not all of them do. So we want, the reason they want to have them secure to the ground is to help prevent from people tipping them, if you will.
Yeah. I've been on a construction when one got turned over. It's not a pleasant thing. Okay, I was just wondering if we had some kind of definition of what secured was. I guess that'll be up to you guys to figure out.
All right, seeing no further discussion, I will call the vote on 24-02CC. By golly, he's consistent. His eyes have it. All right, that is concluding the public hearing. So at this time, we're going to go down the council. Councilman Stevens, doing his homework.
All right, thank you, guys. Well, since we did a National Safe Boating Week proclamation, I figured we'll just stay with boating stuff. Actually, before I go to that, I actually had someone actually apply for the local planning agency. I guess it's been an open position for a while. And Larry Calsert actually talked to me and said he was willing to do it. So I was hoping I can get everyone's support and with appointing Larry Calsert.
That form of a
I'm
motion?
sorry, that's a motion, yes. Okay.
All right, with the form of a motion and several seconds, calling the vote. All right, ayes have it. So
You're in there.
moved. Congratulations.
All right, then the next thing I got on here is I'm looking to be the legislative sponsor for the livery ordinance updates. So hoping to put that in a motion. I guess the plan's for me to work with staff and try to get the livery ordinance to where it's a little bit more understanding, a little bit more clear. Do you want me to go into a little more detail now, or should I wait for?
I'll make the motion to appoint you as the legislative sponsor.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
All right, Councilman Bagby made the motion with the second with Councilwoman Hebert. And seeing no further discussions, calling the vote. I put it on there for him.
All right, so I guess I'm hoping to get with Kim and trying to get this ordinance maybe at the first reading soon. Is that right? Sound good?
All right, ayes have it.
Maybe?
You're it. I thought we were going to talk about it on May 20th first
Yes,
in
yes,
detail, but it's up
exact-
to you all. So
okay.
now I have a question because that was the path I was thinking.
Okay.
If we're talking about first reading, then we might need to have a little more discussion.
Agreed, okay, let's bring it up for discussion.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's, we've discussed some clarifications to the definition, and I'll bring a draft of that on May 20th.
There you go.
And then if everybody's good, we can go to first reading? Okay, great.
I like that better. All right, and then one other topic is is the mooring harbor field plan. I guess there's been a lot of discussion on having a harbor master that can have jurisdiction on our water, and really it's just previous council members just saying that we need it, and unfortunately the harbor master has no jurisdiction on the water, so just trying to come up with a plan to where we can actually do that. So I made a PowerPoint slide. I don't know if you all want me to kind of go over it or just kind of give you guys a rough thing on it. Am I allowed to get that clicker or? Oh, okay. That's true. All right, well, how do I do it? Perfect. All right, so pretty much this is an example of a mooring harbor, and pretty much it's got mooring balls on it, and pretty much we can have some local ordinances and all that stuff to make it happen. So mooring field goals, so pretty much in this, pretty much it's to, I kind of lost my train of thought. As you see, here's a whole bunch of the goals to make it happen. So I'm going to try to make this fairly quick. Having a mooring harbor, it's actually going to meet a lot of the prioritized strategic goals for the city of Destin. It's actually going to meet some of the harbor CRA district goals, and it's going to meet some of the harbor capacity steering committee recommendations. And it does have a lot of benefits to Destin. I mean, there's a lot of safety benefits. It gives it to where we can have a harbor master that actually has jurisdiction on our water. It's going to potentially prevent vessels from breaking away and damaging other people's property. And all these vessels that will be using these mooring balls, they'll have to meet U.S. Coast Guard standards. So this will hopefully prevent any derelict vessels actually occurring in our waterways. And hopefully we can get to the at-risk program first before we get to that point. Other benefits that we'd have, we'd actually have a pump out station. It would bring more business to our economy. So we don't have anywhere for all these loopers to come through. I know Pensacola just recently started looking at it. So Pensacola could be one stop, we can be another stop, and these people coming through can actually partake in restaurants and using some of the stuff in our area. So currently, we actually have 3 locations in the city of Destin that are considered free harbors. There's actually 2 of them in the harbor, one right there, the other one's there, and then the other one's actually in Joe's Bayou. My recommendation is if we do a mooring field, these red locations aren't exactly where we'd probably have to get further input on it. But having them in the harbor and then potentially having them in Joe's Bayou, and the reason on that is right now sailboats can't get underneath a bridge, so this kind of gives options for people with sailboats to kind of choose which mooring field they want to go to. And then where One Harbor Boulevard is, I know there's still a lot of questions on what we want to make of it, but what we could do is we can have One Harbor Boulevard be our upland facilities on there. This is just an example of what a mooring ball looks like and how it works. So this was a presentation that was kind of done a while back, but having One Harbor Boulevard provide all the upland facilities, this will meet the standards for the mooring field. Key things are restrooms, indoor showers, having dinghy docks, garbage disposal, and a sewage pump out station. Other things I'd like to see there is have a harbor master building to where they can actually operate out of. Here's just more example of what a pump out station looks like. This is an example of what a dinghy docks look like. I guess this is some of the questions that I'd like to probably, I'll probably make a motion towards the end, but I don't know all the details on this, so hoping if we do go this route, kind of see if staff can provide a little more input on this and see how accurate it is, and key thing, see how plausible this mooring facility is. What this is, you have to have a mooring field management plan. This just kind of outlines what's required. And then we also have to have some principles of the mooring harbor. And like I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to waste a lot of time. It did get emailed to City Council earlier, so. All the agencies that have to be involved, we'd have to get City of Destin involved, Okaloosa County, DEP, Army Corps of Engineers, Coast Guard, and FWC, because each one has a specific task to make all this happen. And I did chat with the county on it, and they said that they're willing to work with us if this is something that we want to do. So back in the day, we worked on the harbor capacity study, and what came out of it was we had to do the CAP 107 study. So one of my thoughts on it is to maybe see about pitting the mooring harbor idea, adding it to this, and see if the Army Corps of Engineers can kind of give some input and see how this would all work. And I guess what I'd like to really see, what the Harbor Capacity Steering Committee could do is to see if they can come up with a harbor master plan, and then we can suggest that plan to the Army Corps of Engineers. These are just some examples of things you can regulate in or require in a mooring field. And this is just a process of what you have to do to establish a mooring field. You got a permit, and then you get all your applications. You got to work on all your signage. And then here's just all the legal steps that you have to do. And then, of course, you need to have what we've learned. You got to have these public workshops, and you got to get public input. And there's a lot of questions that we'd probably have to determine. And like I said, if we get to this point, we can figure all that out. One thing is fees. There has been discussions of the harbor pump in the back of how like we're having to pay for it. And this could be an option to help pay for those fees for the mooring, or for the harbor pump in the back. And then here's just a whole bunch of grant opportunities. I was talking to Jeff Kozad about some of them. And Pensacola just said that they were getting ready to do the American Rescue Plan to help pay for the study idea. So maybe we can kind of follow suit, see what they're doing. And then, of course, our harbor master position, from what I understand, it's kind of vague with some of the positions. So these are just some thoughts of what we can require the harbor master position to do. And then if we do go this route, we'd have to update the website to offer more information on the harbor, or the mooring field, with opportunities for them to book online or work with the harbor master. And then these are just some examples of other mooring fields in the area. If the ones that have the slides, y'all can click on those links and it goes directly to their mooring field details, and you can kind of see how they do it. So the key things are the decisions that we have to make. I'm going to pull up my slide because I can't read that small. So pretty much we need to recommend to the Harbor CRA or Harbor Board Waterways to be the advisory boards on these. We need to figure out the mooring field fees. Got to figure out the pump out station fees, dinghy dock fees. If we want to do transient docks, or if we want to go a different route, do we want to allow commercial activity? So there's a whole bunch of questions on how do we get to this point, but at least this is just a starting point at least. That's really all it is. So the key thing that I'm really wanting to do is, I guess I want to make a motion to direct the city manager to have staff review the potential mooring harbor plan and provide the feasibility of this plan with any recommendations.
Second. All right, got a motion and a second, and a couple discussions. Up first, Councilman Bagley, then King.
Okay, so Harbor One, who has jurisdiction of that water? I know we have jurisdiction in the harbor and in Joe's Bayou. Who has jurisdiction? Because I don't think it is us.
Would that be the state?
Wrong. Okay, so is the state going to allow us to put a mooring field in their water?
FWC actually has programs for this, and I know that they have grants for it also. So they're actually pushing.
I'm not even into the funding thing yet. I know that's usually my main point of emphasis, and I own it. But my question is specifically jurisdiction, because I don't want us to invest a lot of energy and time and effort if at the end of the day the state has never granted someone a mooring field in a place where they own the water. Because most of these mooring fields, you own the water. Pensacola owns their water.
Say that would be the first thing we can look into to avoid spending too much time on something before we.
Okay.
I'd also recommend public-private partnerships. There's a couple people in that harbor that are doing some redevelopment, and you might want to go check them out as well.
So, and then, you know, if we can't do Harbor One, which I think has advantages. It also has some disadvantages of clogging, depending on how big a mooring field we actually build. But I figure we're not just putting 10 balls out there for, I figure we're going to have a mooring field, because I've always thought the harbor master ideal was, it always sounds good on paper, but when you actually look at what they're going to be doing, it never seemed to pan out. But so I don't want 10 balls out there, and so we can hire and say, we have a harbor master. I want to know what the space requirement is and the proposed size of this. Will it fit in Joe's Bayou? Because one of my concerns is if we can't do Harbor One, I would prefer, just me personally speaking, I would prefer Joe's Bayou, because we have enough boats in the harbor, and we have more people building to put more boats in the harbor. And so now we add a mooring field out there that's large enough to actually warrant a harbor master, and I think we're just, if we haven't already killed the golden goose, that'll be the last bullet in its head,
Quick question, one comment on that. Currently in the harbor, there's a whole bunch of vessels that are just anchored up freely right there, and unfortunately, we can't do anything to them. So those are, it's actually, One Harbor Boulevard wouldn't be where the mooring field would be. That would be where the upland facilities are. The mooring fields would be somewhere in the harbor and then somewhere in Joe's Bayou.
Yeah, and that's my favorite part about this is the control without the volume, maybe. But all right, Councilman King.
Thank you, sir. I personally think it's a great idea. Seems like it's a big undertaking. I personally like if we ever were going to do a city marina, I mean, these two things could piggyback on each other. I'm sure that, which I'm not trying to throw this in on your topic, but that's going to need all these considerations as well. I think it's a step in the right direction. Does this, let me ask you, one of the questions I had was, in the harbor, does this mooring field, what are the rules on mooring outside of it? Let's say the people don't want to go through the process of, reserving a mooring ball, and so they're like, well, I'll just drop anchor right here, and we got the same problem. Does that make sense? Is there a way around that?
From what I understand, you can anchor up outside the mooring field, no problem. It's just within the mooring field boundaries is where you wouldn't be allowed to.
Okay, so it doesn't necessarily eliminate the transient junk that's.
But it gives the harbor master to where they can have jurisdiction on, if we have any ordinances down the line, we can kind of control it.
I'm not saying it's not a great idea. I love it. I think it's great. I think these are just questions we're going to have. What about hurricane prep in Joe's Bayou? Is this open for, people to go? Is it a safe place to go dock up or, tie up for a hurricane?
So there is a mooring specialist, Thomas Ankerson, out of Gainesville. I'd say we could probably reach out to him to probably get some more input on that. But my thinking is, I'm just speaking out. I would figure the harbor master, if there's a bad hurricane, kind of like when a hurricane happens in the harbor, all the vessels leave. So I'm assuming we could probably tell the same thing to all the people that are moored up to the mooring balls, because they're paying either weekly or daily or whatever. So.
Well, hats off to you for putting that together. That's a lot of information. It's a lot to kind of process. So thanks for your hard work on that. I think it's great.
Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. The harbor's within a CRA district, and we have a harbor CRA board. I would suggest we send it to them as a first step. I had the pleasure of working in the Keys when I was much younger, and they were doing battles over mooring fields the whole time I was there. Of course, some people loved them, some people hated them. I'm afraid if you try to establish one in Joe's Bayou, we're going to get a lot of public pushback from all those people that build those very nice homes. I would say some of the ordinances down there in the Keys were written to prohibit anchoring outside the mooring fields. In other words, you had to go to the mooring field or you weren't allowed to anchor somewhere else. So there's a whole myriad of possibilities. But it was, I'm going to tell you, controversial the whole time I was down there. There were people battling over the mooring fields because the folks that lived on shore didn't want 50 or 100 boats anchored out in mooring fields where, while you say you can't dump your toilet in the middle of the night, guess what happens? There's just a whole group of things that go on. So it may well be controversial, but I've always felt that people should be allowed to anchor in public waters. And while the state of Florida will tell you they own the bottomlands in the harbor, the city of Destin does have jurisdiction there because the city limits go across the mouth of the harbor and Joe's Bayou. So we have jurisdiction, but they will say they own the bottomlands and we would not be able to establish it without their blessings. But it can get quite controversial. So we'll see how it rolls. But I would add, if Mr. Stevens will add it to his motion, that we send it to the Harbor CRA to at least get their first look at it.
Do you think we should actually see if staff thinks it's plausible first and then go to the CRA, or should we go to CRA first?
I would say let the CRA look at it. And we know it's possible. All we have to do is spend the money.
Okay. I'm okay modifying the motion to where we'll send it to CRA and get their opinion.
I'll second that. And I would also like to say that everything is controversial.
It is. Some a little more than others.
All right, I got a motion and a second amended. Everyone good on the, sounds good? All right, call the vote. All right, ayes have it. Is that it?
I got one more thing.
I thought so.
I'm sorry. It's nothing boat related though. I recently heard how Destin Elementary is no longer offering the arts in the schools. So I was more or less seeing, and then the Parks and Recs, they're doing painting classes at Captain Royal Melvin Park now. So I was just wondering to see maybe if we could put in a motion to see if Parks and Rec could look into the feasibility of offering maybe an after-school art program at the school, or even a summer art program, just to kind of keep the creative juices going on with these kids.
Is that a form of a motion?
Yes, it is.
All right, there we go. So do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Councilman Bagby.
Yeah, that's not exactly completely true. And I think you can see there was I believe Superintendent Chambers released a statement on what was actually going on with arts and education, and I would refer us, maybe Tamara knows the statement that I'm referring to, but I would do a substitute to table this until we get a little more information, because I know there was a lot of hype out there, and the world was falling, and it was ending, and there was going to never be art again at Destin Elementary School, and that's just not true. So I don't want us to get too far, number one. And number two, the school board has a responsibility. We have a responsibility. I think we learned that on the land deal, where some of us wanted to spend our fortunes on that land, and I just want us, let's do what we're designed to do and do it to the best of our ability, and let the school board do what they're designed to do. And I don't mean that, I know that's out there, and I know you're probably reacting to people, multiple people probably that called you or came to your yard with their pitchforks about their kids' art education, but let's deal with facts here, folks, okay?
All right, Councilwoman Nabear.
So do we want to officially table this then, John, so we can find out what the real facts are before we put this back on the Parks and Rec to do something with it, please?
Do you know roughly how long we should table it for?
Next meeting, make a decision.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
All right, so motion on the table.
I'll motion table it.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, no further discussion.
That's all I have.
There you go. King Guile, confirm. Good deal. All right. All right. Councilman Guile.
I've got nothing.
All right, Councilman Destin. Yeah.
I'm going to pass tonight.
Bagby.
I think John used all my time.
All right. All right, Councilwoman Abear.
I had asked to put on under my name, and it didn't appear here, but I am looking for 2 committee members, one for Parks and Rec and one for the adjudicant. I'm not sure exactly what that is, Ray, what that committee's official terminology is.
Board of Adjustment?
Is it the Board of Adjustments? Is that what it is?
The Board of Adjustment has 6 members, but it's Bagby's, Mr. Bagby's
Oh, mine's off, okay.
nominee.
I'm looking for a
But
member to.
you know that, do you know who I'm talking about? She's about to pull her name off. They're moving.
For the Parks and Rec?
Danielle Piper. And the other, she's on the Board of Adjustments as well.
Okay, for the Parks and Recreation, I think Mr. Bagby needs to appoint one because Ms. Lisa Mason moved out.
So,
And then for Councilmember Abear, you have Danielle Piper,
Yeah,
currently a
and-
member.
and Danielle Piper has asked me to replace her in both of her committee positions because she is moving to Atlanta for family reasons. So I'll wait till I have somebody let me know, or at least if you have somebody that's come to you, and so when you have an opening, I want to be on that board. I know that we've had people ask about it, so I'm just making it public that I need both of those boards filled, and if anyone out there knows or has anyone they want to work with us, let me know, and I will nominate you for those committees. Thank you, that's all I have.
Ms. Abear, I think we just received one applicant lately. Shall I put that on the next agenda, or?
Please.
Power of online.
Yeah, put it on there, and I will recommend that person as my replacement for Ms. Piper.
Councilman King.
I would like to make a motion to appoint Ms. Marlene Scanlon to the Town Center CRA Advisory Committee.
I'll second.
Seeing no further discussion, calling the vote. Ayes have it. Congratulations.
And that's all I have tonight. Thanks.
Good deal. All right. Councilman Schmidt's not here. I have nothing. City Attorney.
Sorry, I have a few, but they'll be pretty quick. The first one is your approval, if you are willing to approve a waiver for any potential conflict of interest on the White Hat Productions contract negotiations. The attorney for White Hat, and this is the company that was going to be contracted with for the purpose of conducting a mayor's ball, if you recall from the April 8th meeting. So
I move to direct the mayor to execute the attached waiver of any potential conflict of interest.
I'll second.
All right, good deal.
Okay.
All right. Calling the vote. Appreciate that.
Okay. The next one is a call for an executive session to be held on May 20th at 5:30 PM in the City Hall Annex Council Chambers in the following case: Enclave Community Property Association Incorporated versus City of Destin, case number 2023 CA 003150 in the First Judicial Circuit in and for Okaloosa County, Florida. Present at the meeting would be the City Council, the Mayor, Mr. William Warner, which is an attorney for the city for insurance, Eric Krebs, another attorney for the city from our insurance, myself, the city manager, and that is it. Okay? Nope, just letting you know. Ray, you don't need a motion, do you? Okay. Oh, I see. And then the last item is the city manager contract. It is in your agenda packet for public review. If anyone has questions, please let me know.
Do you need a motion to approve as?
Yes,
oh,
ma'am.
I'll
That
make
is
a
the-
motion to approve as written.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. Any further discussions? Seeing none, calling the vote. Oh, there it is. All right, I have it. So moved.
Congratulations, Mr.
Congratulations.
Zambucci.
Officially.
How is it for me? My items are quick.
Oh, there you go, John. There, take some notes. Just kidding. I'm kidding. I love the homework. All righty. No, I'm going to have some next time. All right. At this time, our very last thing is public comment. So if you have any public comments, I'm going to start from the right this time and work my way left in counter order. Yes, sir. You just push the button, name and address, and the floor is yours for 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Matt Condon. I reside at 99 Cayman Cove, Destin, Florida. I would like to discuss, or just let me tell you why I'm here, is to discuss an administrative change by the city's administrators to not issue BTRs to yacht charters who are engaged in bareboat charter operations. Yacht charters operate in a unique space between regular charter and livery, but they are neither a regular charter or a livery. Yacht charters are best described as captained, captained operated bareboat charters. Currently, or for the yacht charter boat owners, several of them are present here, previous administrations have granted BTRs so long as they were captained operated. And that's been changed now. If they are deemed as a bareboat charter, captain or otherwise, the BTRs are not being issued. I believe this was perhaps from some abuse of the moratorium, and which we appreciate. But I'm here to suggest that that this has ensnared existing yacht charter businesses by mistake, perhaps, and that to suggest a small change in the administration to not include yacht charters as rental vessels, which they are obviously not. I do want to state for the record that all yacht charters, both in Destin and every other city that I operate in as a manager of yacht charter boats, are all 100% captained operated. From a practical matter, with $1 million boat, they're not going to be rented. So when this matter comes up for discussion, perhaps at the next meeting, I would suggest carving out the yachts in a simple fashion by saying if the vessel is over 32 feet and is yacht certified, that it not be included in the rental livery moratorium. That's all I have. Yes.
Yeah, a quick question.
Sure.
Oh.
I'm flying blind up here. Councilwoman Neighbor? Yeah. Got the timer on.
I'm not really sure, with this being public comments, if we can comment on this or not, but I would venture to guess that what he's asking should be automatic. I mean, $1 million yacht shouldn't be in the
So,
same bucket of...
The issue is what he referenced, which is the unintended consequences for the liveries when that loophole is available. But this is precisely the issue that Councilmember Stevens and I have been talking about, and that is going to come back to you on May 20th. The city staff and I and Councilmember Stevens have been talking with the community, including the yachts and the liveries, and so we have some ideas, and it will come to you on May 20th, and we've talked about it.
Well, that sounds like hopefully we'll all be able to support that. That makes a lot of sense. 32-foot or larger, $1 million, it's not a rental.
No. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Eva?
Yeah, no worries. Okay. Can you provide us like later with what's considered yacht credentials? That way we can kind of, at least I can kind of review that and try to understand that a little more.
Sure, there's a couple of easy things I could just mention to you right now. Vessels built in North America are issued a capacity plate. So they will say, yeah, either capacity of X number of people or yacht certified. vessels built outside of North America will have what's called specific yacht certification, Class A, B, C, or D, et cetera. So pretty much all boats are going to have some clear yacht certification, whether it's from the North America, which is called the NMMA, or the international standards.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right,
Come to
thank
the
you.
next meeting.
Okay, we'll do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
All right, yeah.
Please.
I think, oh, I'm sorry. Either on this.
Well, you already know. Yeah, okay. My name is Ryan Holloway. I live at 530 Beach Drive. I guess we operate out of 314 Harbor Boulevard and some other places. Here for the same reason. We had a great conversation the other week, and I feel like we got somewhere along with other members. We've had a lot of talks. I just want to sit here. I'm not going to waste 3 minutes. That say I fully support. Matt and I have worked together a long time. Holloway Yachts is the largest charter yacht company down here, as we're now operating over 8 boats. Whether it's under my name as a company, ones that I own, or ones that I manage for other people and help them create their own companies. So we are giving a lot back. In one day, I can employ up to 8 different captains. I can employ up to 12 different deckhands. So we are giving back, and we are all captains. I'm not going to give someone a multi-million-dollar yacht keys, go, hey, buddy. It's just not. I'm not going to give them keys to a $300,000 center console that I own. It's just not happening. And so with that said, I agree with the 32 feet that we talked about, or a yacht certification plate. Every yacht's going to have them. Any boat that's yacht certified. Now you're going to have some bigger center consoles that have that will be yacht certified like ours is, but these pontoon boats are not going to have them. They're just not, unless you're looking at some $400,000 monster Premier or something, which is not going to be chartered. It's not going to be bareboated anyway in that sense of a term. One thing that we do use what they call, like our commercial policies are named operator. So we actually do have a primary captain, even though they have an option of 4. So on the last page of our contracts, and I sent it to Sherry, so I don't know if y'all have gotten it or not, but I'll give it to every single one of you. It will state that you can only use these 4 captains. These are the only 4 people allowed to drive that boat, and even if it's like one of mine, I'm not allowed to drive 7 to 12 guests. So even though I have a 100-ton master, I'm not even on that list. So with that said, we are operating at a much higher standard and regulated standard. All my boats have certifications. Besides that, even though we do have to operate with the chosen captain, I'm not going to let anyone that's not on my insurance policy that we went to death with the other day take that boat or anything like that. So that's all I got. Oh, you're right. I hope so. Let's push it.
Yep.
Yep.
Turn it off, thanks.
All right, middle of the row. Anything?
Yeah, I guess it's my turn. I'm Gary Troop. I live at 86 Shira Street, and we are owner of one of these yachts that rents out. And I just want to reiterate that, like Ryan said, our boat can't go out insurance-wise without a captain that's on the insurance policy. So it's not going out. And I also want to reiterate that we service sort of a different clientele. We don't compete with fishing boats. We don't compete with pontoon boats. We're, focused on a lot of the bachelorette parties and those things, or a family wants to go out for a nice time. So we bring a different service here that people really like. And, I think the bachelorette party thing has been a big destination for Destin, and they love to go out on these boats. So, and we hire, local captains and crew and stuff. So, and we try and be a good citizen here. We're not the problem of overcrowding and, banging around. So appreciate your support.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right.
Did you just want to?
I'm the 4th coming.
Sort of, kind of. Larry Kauser with Parrot Head Yachts, 206 Beach Drive here in Destin. And I have been really kind of dissecting Article 8 of the city structure, and that specifically deals with the whole idea of livery versus other things. And in the definitions, in the very beginning of Article 8, in the definitions, it says, this is livery except, and the very first thing that is the exception is any vessel that is captained at all times by a U.S. Coast Guard licensed captain. I think every single person that you've already heard has that person at the helm. We go through a process of deep dives on these people, not just us personally doing background checks, but we submit those people to our insurance company, who then does an even deeper dive. They check their driver's license, they check their criminal records. There's a deep, severe background check done before we ever actually have anybody, whether they have a captain's license or not, before they can ever drive our boat, they have to have all of those proper credentials. And then beyond that, besides having the yachts, and everybody's talking about the money that we spend on these vessels, but even beyond that, there are other vessels that we have that have other benefits and features. For instance, being ADA compliant. We've just picked up one that we are making ADA capable and putting cleats in the floor so that we can actually strap. We're putting a passerelle so we can actually roll a wheelchair down on the vessel and then strap it down, because it's very difficult to get people on these big yachts, lifting them out of their wheelchairs, then putting them on the boat, then putting the wheelchair on, then reseating them. It's difficult and it's embarrassing for them. So we take a lot of effort in making something very unique and very different than what is out there. And I believe the purpose for Article 8 in the beginning, if you read it, is to protect the harbor and the surrounding area from unlicensed or incapable people driving the vessels. It's for safety purposes, and we're meeting and far exceeding any of those requirements. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. There might be one more. Yes, sir. Yep.
No, Patty.
Oh, Patty's coming. Okay.
I'm not talking about the yachts.
Okay.
Oh, yes, it's
You
say
sure?
ditto. But the yacht stuff. Patty Brown, 86 Shira Street. So I know you guys get sick and tired of seeing my emails, but I really am trying to find a happy medium for, which hat do I have on tonight? Beach hat, I guess. That, you know, we try to find something that's workable for all of the, not only the locals, but also our tourists. And the email that I sent out with pictures displaying some of the problems that we're having on the beach right now. So I really hope, I know that Lewis has been so kind to respond to my email and say, we're gonna have a meeting and look at this. And I hope that when you do look at some of these issues, that we can come together in a compromise. It's the only way it's gonna work. There's no other way that this is gonna work unless we kind of all give a little, because it has become a battlefield at Barracuda, especially. And Jim, you're very well aware of that situation. So let's try to work together. I mean, when I see things that I think are good, whether I'm in Turkey or I'm here, I'm sending you guys a message. So thank you for listening and reading the emails, and that we can work together to make it better here for everyone. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Yes, sir.
Don Dallas, 442 Snapper, Destin, again. I got a question. Can I ask a question? Okay, I believe it was the last meeting. A lot of conversation about these homes up here, a couple of them, that they're turning into apartments. I can't remember that side street right there. What was it there? Well, Main, but then right on the corner, that other, no, my God, when you get off of Kelly, stop signs, you got three-way stop, make a right on Main, that Kellair, that's the name of that street. A lot of people was in here saying stuff about, it's supposed to be 10 apartments or something like that. Last I heard from this meeting, that they had stopped building on that because my understanding, could be wrong, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, you let me know, that the guy or company, whatever, that bought all that land, with the houses on it, that supposedly he was from South Florida, whatever, had a construction company. His workers that's what they're building them for, his workers. I understood at the time the city did give them a permit to build. Then they stopped the permit. Where are we at on that?
I'm going to allow
We can-
our
we
legal
can-
opinion.
I know our lawyer here.
Yeah, we can respond to that. Actually, the
I
city.
mean, if you can't, you can't.
No, we can, and we're talking about Main Street, but the city manager and I were talking about it earlier today, and he can give you a quick answer.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Good evening.
Yes, sir. Same to you.
The project is not going forward. It is not going forward because does not meet the city's requirements for that district. It's been stopped, and so it's not going forward.
It is not going to move forward?
Correct.
They cut it off forever. Thank you so much. And I'm sure all the folks that were here, they probably might already know. But, one quickie. How are we going to know about, didn't say that. Don't start, Jim. The meeting. Y'all having a meeting the 20th or something where the public's supposed to be here? How are we going to get notified? I mean, we got the mayor's deal, the lady over there. They got our addresses, I guess, and they're going to send it or Facebook, or how are we going to find out so all the neighbors will know to come? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's important for them to be here.
Absolutely.
We live here.
The clerk's office and our information office will be sending out notices.
Say what now?
The clerk's office and our information office will be sending out notices.
Okay, great, thank you. Because we always bug the mayor on his little website. Thank y'all.
Thank you. No? All right, seeing none.
Yeah, no, my time, I didn't take 45 minutes to talk about. Hey, and Kim and I had this conversation earlier today and I like the yacht certification, okay? That should be it. I don't like the length because, I can make one of those pontoon boats as long as I need to make it. I've seen some houseboats up in Tennessee that would make some of these yachts in length look like little toys. Because, it's a full house on that. So maybe money, maybe a dollar limit, definitely the yacht certification, but I want something objective that, that some little ingenious little person can't go out there and go, I just created a yacht. I just got in and I don't have to have, to meet their guidelines.
And I think my intention is to make it easy for code compliance to be able to define it.
All right, thank you.
All right, anyone else have their piece to say? All right, seeing none, adjourned.